In the wake of the Supreme Court's overturning of Roe v. Wade, Republican politicians have been dealing with the fact that their extreme position on abortion is wildly unpopular. Nearly two-thirds of Americans saying abortion should be legal in all or most cases, a majority opinion that also holds in 43 states, including Florida, for instance. But that isn't stopping Florida Republicans from proposing to tighten the state's current 15-week abortion ban to 6 weeks. Now, Republican lawmakers will be quick to tell you there are exceptions, such as for saving the life of the mother or when a fetus has a fatal abnormality. But the reality on the ground is those exceptions are meaningless, essentially. As we heard today from women in Texas who are suing the state for denying them abortions despite grave health risks to themselves and their fetuses.
My heart broke into a million pieces. I didn't even know a pain like that could exist until that moment.
I love Texas, and it kills me that my own state does not seem to care if I live or die.
Sounds like a pretty sick and twisted plot to a dystopian novel, but it's not. It's exactly what happened to me while pregnant in Texas.
Those are three of the 5 women now suing the state of Texas in what appears to be the first lawsuit by women who were themselves pregnant against one of the state abortion bans that have proliferated since the Supreme Court's overruling of Roe. Amanda Zurawski is one of the plaintiffs in this lawsuit. Molly Duane is a senior attorney at the Center for Reproductive Rights and the lead counsel on the case, and both join me now. Thank you for coming on. Amanda, I thought I'd start with you with just before getting into your story, the decision to come forward and talk about this and how difficult it must be and how you made the decision to do it nonetheless.
Hi, Chris. Thanks for having me. Yes, to answer your question, it's been incredibly difficult. I think people might think that talking about it over and over again somehow makes it easier, but it certainly doesn't. What I do know is that there are countless women who have been through something very similar to what I went through. And it's for all of those women that I continue to speak out, because a lot of people don't want to, or they're afraid to, or they don't have the opportunity to. But these stories need to be told because it's continuing to happen. And we know that people need to hear these stories because this is happening all across the state of Texas and all across the country.
I have to say, as a journalist, I want to extend my gratitude for the choice to do this, which I know is extremely difficult, but precisely for that reason, that we know this is happening, and yet it is hard. It's a hard story to tell because, understandably, most of what is happening with this is happening in silence and quiet and away from the public eye. Can you tell us? I think you were 18 weeks pregnant when you got the news that you got about what happened to you.
Yeah, I was just 1 day shy of 18 weeks pregnant. So my husband and I had been trying to get pregnant for about 1.5 years, and it took a lot of procedures and tests and surgeries and misdiagnoses and a lot of fertility treatment. And last spring, we finally conceived, and we're just over the moon excited. And my first trimester and that first bit of my second trimester was pretty smooth sailing. And then right around the 18-week mark, I had some concerning symptoms. So I contacted my doctor, and she had me come in right away. And very quickly, I was diagnosed with a condition called cervical insufficiency. And essentially what that meant was my body was dilating way too early. And I was inevitably, we were told by multiple doctors, going to lose our daughter. Eventually, my water broke. I lost all of my amniotic fluid. My membranes ruptured, and it was very clear that there was nothing the doctors could do at that point to save our daughter. So what should have happened at that point was they should have been able to intervene to provide an abortion so that we could ensure the respectful passing of our daughter, Willow, and prevent me from getting sick. But because of the ban in Texas that had just recently been passed and gone into effect, they couldn't do anything because Willow's heart was still beating and I wasn't yet sick. So my life wasn't considered at risk or in danger. So we just had to wait for one of those things to happen, for her heart to stop beating or for me to get sick. So eventually it took 3 days for one of those things to happen. And in my case, I became septic and spent 3 days in the ICU and then another 3 days at the hospital being treated for sepsis, which had and is continuing to have long-term effects on my health and my future fertility.
I am so sorry that happened to you. And it just sounds unconscionably awful ordeal. Molly, I wonder if you could tell us what the legal theory is. Obviously, that's anyone I think listening to that is horrified by that. What is your suit saying on legal terrain about why Texas should have to stop doing this or be held to account for it?
Well, thanks for having us, Chris, and thank you for letting Amanda tell her story. It is so important for the public to hear these real stories of real people who were denied abortion care. What our lawsuit is doing is really quite simple. We're asking the state of Texas to acknowledge that people like Amanda should have received abortion care, which in their cases was emergent, necessary care to save their lives, to save their fertility, and to save the future children that they hope to have. And what we need the Texas courts to do is clarify what this law means. And specifically, what we need the state of Texas to do is to say, if any of the women in this lawsuit they think weren't sick enough to get an abortion, then they need to tell us which ones and why.
This seems to be the issue here, this ambiguity, intentional, I think, largely, Amanda, means that women like yourself are in this position. What do you want to see come out of, Amanda, your decision to join this lawsuit and to speak out about what happened to you?
I think first and foremost for me, it's about education. Abortion is healthcare, plain and simple. And a lot of times it's necessary life-saving healthcare, sometimes for the life of the mother, in my case, sometimes for the life of the fetus. In one of my fellow plaintiffs' cases, she was pregnant with twins and she needed the abortion of one to protect the life of the other. I think there's a stigma about what someone who needs and seeks an abortion looks like. Yeah. And I want people to understand that it's simply a standard medical procedure, and oftentimes it's needed to save lives.
Amanda Zurawski, thank you again for joining us tonight, and Molly Duane, really appreciate it.